Welcome back to Champion Select. It's your host Shinya. Hello, hello. Nice to see you guys. Today I wanted to discuss a little bit of a topic that I'm a few days late on, but Dave Guskin a few days ago, about 3 to 4 days ago at this point, on March 9th, came out with a couple tweets regarding the Riftbound meta and some of his thoughts on how dominant the scene is when it comes to purple, how dominant the scene is when it comes to Draven. And yeah, he had a little bit of a couple tweets here that I wanted to go over today. We're going to go ahead and read them out. Again, this may be a little bit old news, but I felt like I wanted to talk about it as one of the first few videos on this channel. And we will have a video coming out in the next probably day or so where I interviewed one of my locals here down in San Antonio with a couple of thoughts on, what we should do for the future of the game when it comes to, certain cards and things like that. Dave Guskin, again, he's one of the, I believe he is the game director of Riftbound. So if you don't know who he is the big bad final say when it comes to sort of how cards are printed, how our cards operate, any sort of erratas, any sort of bans that happen. And he does listen to the community, so shouts out to Dave. He's been an incredibly awesome person when it comes to this game, and he's doing such a great job with Riftbound. Spirit Forge, I do believe, does have a couple of issues here and there, but not anything that's too game breaking or makes me doom for the future of the game. So let's see what he has to say. Hey, Riftbounders, TLDR more. We will obviously look at the TLDR here in a moment, but I want to read through everything he's saying. We're discussing card bans in the near future based on overly dominant play patterns, but none to announce today, nor an expected date for bans. So starting right off the bat, I don't think we're going to get any bans immediately. Not to say we don't get bans in the future, especially as Unleashed preview season is starting next week, where we're going to start seeing some of the cards for Unleashed. I don't see any bans happening. So for all those people out there, yelling for bans for things like Cult Shot and Ezreal, hold your horses. We probably won't see bans for at least another month. Expect a separate rules update on 3:30 for the new mechanics being introduced in our next set, Unleashed, as well as a few clarities around penalties, judge rerun, edge cases, and more. So the interesting part is the rules update, and I do see he says specifically for new mechanics in Unleashed, but he didn't really touch on any sort of old stuff against Spirit Forge Origin stuff. But I do see a future where we get a couple of not necessarily erratas, but more clarification on exactly what is done with these cards. For example, one of the things that I think is going to happen with Draven Legend, I do see an errata happening where winning a combat on Draven Legend means actually killing a unit at a battlefield. I don't think the current meta where if he rebukes something, if he fight or flight something, if you defend on Reaver's Row, and he draws a card and that is considered a combat, I don't think that is healthy for the game, and I don't think that is healthy for the future of the game, let alone, obviously the current meta. So I do see some potential erratas happening, maybe some erratas, surrounding, potentially how, Vex and how Ezreal operate, where you can just straight up play Bellows Breath for free. There's a couple things like that I think that really, break the spirit of the game and make it sort of unfun and kind of unfun to play against. We're watching the meta evolve around Spiritforge in large competitive events like the 4 minor opens held in China, along with the RQs in Bologna and Vegas, which if you guys haven't saw, go check out my Vegas recap video. If you have any questions on how, these regionals operate, if you're afraid to go to one, and you have questions on how to actually go to one, go check out my video. It'll be pinned down in the comments below. And have been keeping a close eye on strategies that may be becoming too dominant, creating frustrating play patterns. Again, talking about those called shots, talking about those Vexes and Ezreals where she's making, those Bella Buffs free. Talking about, Draven, giving him a card every single time he engages in combat with you and he wins. We promise to keep you updated if we were considering bans, and based on what we're seeing, begun internal discussions about the possibilities. So bans are on the table. There is not a world where there isn't a ban within the next, I think, 6 months. Obviously, that's a little bit of a coward thing to say, oh, 6 months there's going to be a ban. Who would have saw that coming? But 6 months, I guarantee you we will see bans. We will see significant bans. We will see significant erratas. So stay tuned to that. Obviously, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button down below for all updated news on Riftbound content. As we shared for the last month, our philosophy is that bans should only be used as a last resort. For us to remove a card from play, there needs to be a strong and specific reason, and we must firmly believe that changes will significantly improve the player experience. I'm going to just keep it real. The fact that Ezreal and a single purple seal makes call shot repeatable free, it's just a frustrating play experience. It makes decks too consistent. Being able to see 4 and draw 2, it's just far too good. Far, far, far too good. I don't know what they were thinking when they printed those two cards together. If there's an argument to be made that, maybe if Ezreal was printed in Origins and Cold Chat was printed in Spearforge, somehow, they didn't realize how good the combo would be. But the fact that they were printed in the same set means someone sat down and went, oh, Ezreal's very fun. Oh, we should make a card, a draw engine card as well to go on top of the draw engine from Ezreal as well. So it was a very deliberate, obviously card combo that they put in the set. And I don't know how that got greenlit, honestly. Our goal is to take a careful approach in ensuring that as many cards as possible to remain each set viable. If we do see a concerning trend across all levels of play, we'll respond quickly and decisively as we can. And obviously, they released a little state of the game here, talking about it. This is back in February 4th, so talking about sort of how they want the game to operate, their sort of thought philosophy and things like that surrounding the game. We're watching as meta continues to develop and reviewing the data, and no final calls have been made quite yet. We'll wait until after the Shenzhen Major Open in late March before making any changes. So that is happening obviously in a few weeks. It's the next, China, Major Open. But we're not going to see any changes until then. So as they set up here at 3:30 is when we're going to start seeing, some sort of rule changes and things like that. I think it's going to be a little not far too late, but I think it's a little bit frustrating to know that we have another at least 4 to 5 weeks of the current meta of Draven just dominating everything. It's just not fun. Having to play Draven in, again, Summer Skirmishes started this past week, having to being able to force to play Draven or force to play something that counters it like a Victor. It's just a little bit frustrating on that regard. As we promised, we're committed to not making large changes so close to competitive events to try and ensure players have a chance to playtest and adapt. Now, this one I completely agree with. I don't think any major changes should be pushed until very much after like a big regional or, say like Worlds or things like that. Obviously, we haven't had anything like that, but yeah, I don't think we should see any of them until after regionals happened. Honestly, after Vegas happened, Vegas was a perfect time to go, oh crap, there's a very, very big issue with some of these cards. Maybe we should, start to push. Probably a little bit too early in Spiritforge meta, but just something to think about when it comes to, timing on these bans and timing on reworking cards and things like that. We have also a rules update arriving March 30th. This includes support for upcoming Unleashed mechanics and improvements to rules clarity around penalties. We already read that. So again, they're not outright saying that there's going to be any erratas or bans on the 30th, just that Unleashed is going to be having obviously new things that are coming to the game, which you're going to have, verbiage around. You're going to have rules around. Judge rewinds, ambiguities, and other edge cases. So nothing too big, probably just some standard small stuff here and there. When it comes to the Unleashed preview season, again, we're 1 week away. I think the major thing that is going to be in Unleashed is we all know it's going to be very jungle themed. We just got the release of Baron Nashor, where he creates a battlefield when he is put into play. I think that's not going to be the only case where we're seeing a third battlefield come into play. I think there's going to be more cards that create that third battlefield, and maybe they're only a temporary battlefield. I do see that being like the major change. Has Spiritforge had gear, attachment gear. Unleash is going to have jungle camps. When you win the camp, you get a buff. You don't get a point, but who knows? But I think, things like that on the, sort of jungle, if you play League, there's going to be more jungle stuff. So stay tuned. That's all for today. Until those arise, rulings may vary slightly between events and by region. Players should continue to follow rulings provided by the local judges. The fact that this has to be said is a little bit scary. I know some of the, there's like some weird verbiage when it comes to some of the Chinese cards that don't read exactly how the American cards do, which is creating some confusion. That's what I'm not a fan of. That's all for today. It's been so exciting and humbling for myself and the entire Riftbound team to watch the community grow. Yeah, shouts out to Dave. Shouts out to Diana, who have been absolutely wonderful parts and pillars of the community. I'm really excited to see where the game goes from here, especially with, again, Unleashed, guys. Unleashed is like a month and a half away. We're about a week out from getting previews of some of these cards. I am very excited to see some of these cards coming out. Let me know down in the comments below what you are most excited for. And as always, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell for all notifications. We're still a new channel. We're still trying to grow. All of your support means the absolute world to me. And yeah, we will see you guys in the next one. Peace.